Is anyone else lagging?
Hello again. Welcome to a special mini episode of Is Anyone Else Lagging? I am Nate, joined by Mike
Hello.
and Casey.
How's it going? Did you forget our names?
Maybe just a little bit. So we are having a special little mini episode tonight because of the Steam announcements. We've had a lot of questions about this particular topic. So felt like that this was a big enough topic and a big enough announcement that it deserved some special attention. This is completely separate from our normal episode or episodes that we have that we post every other week. That one is still coming. So this coming late Friday night, Saturday, you can expect our regular scheduled episode to launch and be there. That isn't going to change, but little special action from us here this evening. So
and maybe possibly Wednesday night, depending on what the announcement is.
Yep, exactly. So, as alluded to, Steam today had some very cool announcements that are very exciting for the PC gaming world and the gaming world in general. So, Casey, how about you start to walk us through this so we can kind of sort it all out?
Sure. This is where my hobbies and professions come into play. I know a lot about this stuff. As we know, and then anyone who hasn't been paying attention or has. On Friday, Steam announced and started a countdown timer for what would have been the normal deal swap time for today. Normally when their day's cycle starts over. And that countdown expired today at that time. I had speculated that maybe we would be seeing the actual Steam box announcement today. I didn't expect what we saw, which was the announcement of the Steam operating system. Running as its own Linux distribution. If you don't know a whole lot about Linux, Linux is an open source operating system. There's literally hundreds, thousands of distributions, different configurations, and it's your tinkerer's OS. If it wasn't for gaming, that's probably what I would run at home. I'm still running Windows 7 myself. I think both of you are too, actually.
Yep. Sure am.
Yeah, and so it's pretty exciting. I didn't expect that. I figured they'd probably expect some backlash, and people pointing the finger at them, saying that they were making a closed ecosystem, which is far from the truth, I guess. But regardless, I figured they'd have allegations. Anyway, that announcement was today. They will have another one on Wednesday, and then I assume another one on Friday. What we saw today was pretty exciting in that Valve/Steam is taking the world of gaming, I guess, by the horns and trying to turn it. There's a lot of momentum in the Windows marketplace or the Windows atmosphere for gaming, and to turn that is pretty tough. But I think what they've announced today is pretty paramount to that actually maybe possibly happening.
So what does that mean for me, Casey? Like, I myself, okay, I have my new rig that I've built. I'm a Windows 7 user. I also have a laptop that has Windows 8, which is I had the laptop before I built the PC. Got Windows 7 because Windows 8 is garbage. So why should I be excited about this?
It's not about what gets you the gains right now. It's about what we're going to see in iterations of Windows down the line, and in an open source environment. Okay, there are a lot of neat features that SteamOS is going to offer, but this is going to make it so that games can be developed on the Linux platform. And what Steam's doing is they're trying to make a dotted line for developers to aim at and say this is what you need to develop for in order to run in the world of Linux. So what Steam chooses to put in their OS will probably become a fairly common standard for the world of Linux if you want to be a gamer.
Sure.
You'll probably see other distributions pick that up, like Ubuntu, for example. They will probably adopt a lot of the same practices. So you don't have to run the Steam operating system to enjoy Steam. You can go download Steam right now on a Linux operating system. All Steam's doing is putting that into a package that's easy. You load it from a disk, hit start, and it installs it, and you're ready to go. Some of the features that it's going to have is your account sharing that we've already talked about.
Right.
The capability to stream from a PC or Mac device in your house. So say you have a really awesome PC machine already built and in your office or in your bedroom or wherever. You can hook this Steam box or even an old junky tower that can run this Steam operating system and stream video from your gaming PC to this device and sit in your living room and play with an Xbox controller or whatever.
That's pretty neat.
In your home network, the latency is going to be nil. I mean, that you won't have lag or, provided your home network's decent and you have a decent router, which I imagine most people do. And then your big tower will handle most of the work. And really all the machine's doing in your living room is playing video, which, you don't need a whole lot of power for that. And then, of course, you'd have the option to natively run Linux-based games. And a lot of Valve games have been made for that. And there's a whole slew of games on Steam now that support that.
Sure. What would you say to the person, Casey, who says, listen, I have a computer and I have a TV, and currently I have my $20 HDMI cable and on Windows, and I just hook one up to the other, and there you go. Why would this be a better alternative to that?
It's not necessarily a better alternative in that situation. I mean, you can continue to do that if you want to. I think, again, what we're looking for is more options in the future. No one's taking Steam doesn't look to take away the Windows capabilities. All they're doing is opening up the world of Linux with this. And so you have the option to not have to run Windows if you don't want to. And for a media center PC, I think there's lots of cool stuff Linux has to offer as far as media streaming, local servers. You can rip your own movies and stream them in your house. You can make your own media server for audio, music, MP3s, whatever. And I have a feeling that this box will be capable of all that. If not out of the box, modders will make that possible.
So, I mean, it's options. You have a lot more options. And even under that certain scenario, I mean, people say that. And I actually took that question. That, for me, is not an actual concern, for myself. Sure. But I've seen that question a lot in kind of the early maybe confusion, if you will, on like the Reddits of the world. Right. But, I mean, how many people, if they have their actual PC, it's a lot of times in its own office or its own place, and it's completely separate in a completely different room or area of the house than their main TV or wherever else they want to stream stream their games to.
Right. And it's hard to say without all the details, but I'm assuming that we'd be able to utilize this shared library so that you could say your kids could have an account and stream games from your desktop PC without accessing everything on your desktop. And that's my assumption is, is how they're going to set that up.
Sure.
There's a lot of details to be shown yet, so that's a big assumption to make. But as far as why this is so important, and why, as far as the future is concerned, why this is important, you have to go backwards in time a little bit. And it's hard to explain why this is so important to someone that just uses a computer casually and doesn't understand the history with this. I'll start by quoting Gabe Newell, co-founder of Valve and acting CEO at the moment. This is a quote from him from July of 2012 at the Casual Connect Games conference. He said, quote, "I think that Windows 8 is kind of a catastrophe for everybody in the PC space. I think that we're going to lose some of the top-tier PC OEM manufacturers. They'll exit the market. I think margins are going to be destroyed for a bunch of people. If that's true, it's going to be a good idea to have alternatives to hedge against that eventuality." Basically, what he's saying is that Windows 8 is at least was, or maybe still is, Microsoft's attempt at a closed market ecosystem. To look back as to why Microsoft would want to do that, we have to look back even further, and a full decade. Okay, it started with a little thing called the iPod. Okay, Apple introduced that in around 2003 is when iTunes opened up, and I believe that was in April of 2003. Sold music to start with, a microtransaction-based marketplace on the internet. That has evolved to selling games in 2006, and then with the introductions of the iPod Touch, iPhones, iPads, they started selling apps in 2008. Okay, and as of January of this year, the Apple iOS app market has sold 40 billion apps, or had 40 billion app downloads. That is a huge number. That's a huge ecosystem of consumers, and this is something that's primarily used in the United States. So it's hard. It's not hard to see why Microsoft is attracted to that kind of environment. I'm not necessarily knocking Apple. I'm not a personal fan of theirs, but I can see why someone would be a fan of them and want that closed market, that controlled device. It makes things simple. Again, that's not for me, and that's not necessarily to knock Apple, but this is just a little bit of history as to why this is important and why us as gamers, we don't want that environment. Apple has yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say further context is that when he says he's not trying to knock Apple, he's restraining himself very heavily.
Yeah, sure.
Applaud.
Apple has achieved what they've done through a few processes. They strictly control everything. They have standards that every app has to meet, and they manually approve everything that gets sold through their app store. Now, say there's content that's not morally approved by them, they deny it. If there's something that's not standardized the way they want it, they deny it. If there's some undocumented reason that they want to deny it, they'll deny it. Basically, if they don't like your app, you're out of luck. This goes back to a little while. I'm sure most people remember how Flash was not supported on your early iPhone Touch or your iPod Touch and iPhones, and on iPads it's not supported out of the box. I think there's ways you can get around that, but my personal theory to why that is that there were several websites and ways to play games on the Apple App Store via Flash, just on the web. So you could go to a website and play a Flash game. Well, what good does that do Apple for you to go on the web and play games for free when they can charge 99 cents, $1.99 for a little game and take 10-20% of that profit? So they wanted to create this closed ecosystem where everything you bought was sold through their app store. Even if it's a free application, say Netflix, they want to disable Netflix's playing capabilities on their website. They want you to download the Netflix app and run that application to use Netflix. Why? Because they can manually approve every change. If Netflix wants to change something that they don't want, they can tell them no. If they want to add a new feature that Apple says they don't want on the iPad or iPhone, whatever, they can say no. Or if they lack a feature that Apple wants, they can hold that hostage and say, I don't want you to update this until you add this. It creates a device that they have every sort of control over. That's what their aim was. Now, the question would be, did this work for Apple? Absolutely it did. They have made a ton of money. I'll go back to when iTunes initially launched, which was in 2003. You know what their opening stock price was or their closing stock price was on April 1st, 2003? I guess.
I can make a guess. I would say $50.
No, $7.08. Apple was in a tough time at that period of time. At the time of the iOS App Store launch, this was after iPads, after iPod Touch, after iPhones. On July 12th, 2010, they closed at $257.28. And as of September 20th, which was just a few days ago, their closing market price was $488.58. That's almost 100-fold, nearly, in value. And now they're I believe the most valued company out there in the world, I think. But anyway, they went from someone that was kind of failing to someone that's extremely successful financially. So it would make perfect sense for Microsoft to want to adopt and duplicate this method. Microsoft stocks from 2003 till today have went from $24.91 to 3279. So obviously they haven't flourished nearly the same amount. More steady, but they haven't grown by any means. I don't know how you guys feel about a closed market system, if that's something that as a gamer you want or you care about.
Well, I mean, we can kind of go back to, I mean, just our last episode and our conversation about mods and Skyrim and everything else, and probably gives the answer as far as that question goes. So
yeah, certainly. I don't think it's a question of whether or not Microsoft wants these profits. They obviously do. It's just a question of how they're going to implement them and what system they're going to do to implement to make these profits.
Hence Microsoft or Windows 8, right?
Yes, yeah. Enter Windows 98, pretty much. I mean, that's what their premise was with Windows 98. I don't think they were quite as bold about it as Apple was. They
dabbled their feet in the water.
Exactly. They wanted to get a feel for it without the risk. Unfortunately, they lost out big, even just the risk. As in January of this year, I have another quote from Gabe. He said that the thing about Windows 8 wasn't just Microsoft's distribution. As somebody who participates in the overall PC ecosystem, it's totally great when faster wireless networks and standards come out, or when graphics get faster. Windows 8 was like this giant sadness. It just hurts everybody in the PC business. Rather than everybody being all excited to go buy a new PC, buying new software to run on it, we've had a 20% decline in PC sales. It's like, holy cow, that's not what the new generation of the operating system is supposed to do. There's supposed to be a 40% uptake, not a 20% decline. So that's what really scares me. When I started using it, I was like, oh my God, I find it unusable. That's what he said. I'm kind of in the same boat, and my fear with Windows 8 isn't the cosmetic changes that a lot of people have complained about. Your lack of start menu, the full screen Metro apps. I mean, I find that stuff annoying, but that's not why I fear Windows 8. I fear Windows 8 because Microsoft is trying to make a closed marketplace to sell everything through, just like Apple has done. I don't want that. I like having my different places I can go out to buy software. I can go to Amazon, or I can go to Steam, or I can go to GOG, or I can go to Origin, and I can choose. There's competition. What Microsoft did to dabble in this was with their Windows 8 tablets. They made an RT tablet and then a standard or professional tablet. The RT tablet was basically, it only ran on Metro apps. You could not install any sort of typical Windows desktop application. It was, you go to the App Store and you buy an app, and that's just like an iPad, and it failed miserably, thankfully. Hopefully that's all Microsoft is going to do with experimenting with that. But I think when this all happened, Valve took a stand and they said, what if this succeeds? Or what if this isn't going to be all that they try to do? Let's go ahead and develop our own plan B, per se, in case Microsoft becomes a closed environment where we're no longer allowed to sell games on it. We're at the point now with the RT failing that I'm not sure that that's going to happen.
Yeah, they've obviously taken a lot of heat, publicly, and they've taken it on the chin in many aspects. So you have to wonder how much they're going to run full steam ahead. But it just goes to exactly what you said. You don't know.
Yep. And why wait and see? Why wait and assume that, it doesn't look like it's going to happen? With the Windows RT tablet failure and the lack of adoption for Windows 8, Steve Ballmer announced a couple weeks ago that he's going to retire within the next year. He's Microsoft's current acting CEO. They will get a new CEO, and who knows where things will go at that point in time. Maybe they will revert back to more of a Windows 7 based plan. Or maybe they won't. Maybe it'll be worse. Who knows? But Steam has went ahead and made an option, and what they've done is they've made, like I said before, a dotted line for developers to aim at, to say, if you want your game to work in a Linux environment, walk this dotted line with your game. They've developed debug tools. They provided help to game developers to get that game published on Steam so they can push updates and everything out through it. Most developers probably are getting more value than what Steam is giving them. as far as the cut that they're taking, just for the sheer fact of the help that they're getting to introduce them into this market. So here we are with an open market with a platform agnostic set of games that we can install on Linux, Windows, or Apple, any device you want, and that's thanks to Valve and Steam. I mean, they've set up Steam Play, which they did years ago, to support Mac games, and now we're sitting at Linux support. And this is exactly opposite of what Microsoft and Sony has done with the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. They sell you a game that only works on that platform, and when that platform dies or you get rid of it, that game has no value to you, or you have to sell it. You will no longer be able to play that game again. And with a platform like this, we can hop around from OS to operating system to operating system, platform to platform, and you always retain those games. And you can log on to any machine that has that platform and play it. I don't see any negatives to this.
And it's free.
Right? Yeah. The operating system is totally free, and it's freely licensed. So if Dell wants to make a Steam box, just a machine that comes loaded with that on it, they can do it. If HP wants to, they can do it. If Apple wants to, they can do it. Any hardware manufacturer can freely license and give it away.
And if you are so scared of it, right, and you're like, I have Windows and I've got my Windows stuff that I am afraid that I'm not going to be able to run, there's no reason why you can't have both operating systems installed, right?
Absolutely, you can dual boot.
Switch between them both. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And what I plan to do is I'm going to make a living room SteamOS machine. I'll probably I have an old tower that I could probably load it on. It doesn't need to be super powerful. Hopefully I'll be able to stream Netflix, Hulu, that kind of stuff on it. We'll see what kind of capabilities are built into it. There's a lot to see yet. But then I can stream my games and play games on my couch with an Xbox controller, or allow my kids to.
You know what I'm gonna do?
What's that?
I'm gonna wait, and I'm gonna see what you do, and I'm gonna go to your house, and then I will do that.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I'll tinker with it for a while. I'm excited though. I really am, and I think more than just the cool features that we're going to get here in the next month or two when this comes out, I'm excited for the future of gaming, because I was worried for a while about where Windows was headed, and maybe unjustifiably so. But like I said, why take that chance?
I remember you talking about Windows 8 and this whole scenario long time ago, back when 8 first came out, and I really didn't comprehend why or what you were saying until now. So, I know I haven't really said anything yet, but I'm glad that I just kind of sat back and listened, because you just taught me a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, well done. Well done, good sir.
And I'm sorry for the long rant, but I had a lot of conversations on Reddit and people personally and in our emails and whatnot that people didn't quite understand why this was so important. Well, what's so important about this? I can hook a PC up to my TV now. It's not about the SteamOS. It's about the migration to Linux and how important this is. Steam also said that there are some AAA titles, some big name games that are going to be coming out in this to support SteamOS. So they've been at this for a while, and I'm anxious to see what games we're talking about, what third-party games we're talking about. If they could get the next like Call of Duty Ghosts or something to come, just something to really get people's attention. I'm not a huge Call of Duty fan with the newer iterations, but the fact that it's a game changer.
Yeah, it would definitely help launch it, or help give it some publicity,
Absolutely.
Get it going.
Yeah, and
So
there's a whole... Go ahead.
I was just saying Wednesday, right? I mean, Wednesday we've got the next announcement. It's got to be Steambox, right? GabeCube.
That's my guess. Yeah, the GabeCube. My guess is a like you said, a hardware device. And the cool thing is it won't be mandatory. You can, if you want it real simple, you can pay Valve $2.99, $3.99, whatever it's going to be, to get that box and order it to it. And you plug it in and you log in and you're done. And for some people, that's probably what they're going to want to do. And even me, the tinkerer, I'm kind of interested to see it. So we'll see. And if that's even what the announcement is. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it'll probably be the Steambox announcement,
Yeah.
which I hope it is. We've both been waiting for a while to hear some kind of information on it, so I'm pretty excited.
I'm even okay if it's just the Steam OS, and they don't announce hardware. But I think the hardware is inevitable. In order to open it up to the
Yeah.
masses, you have to have a device, a hardware device that people can just go to the store and buy,
Oh
or,
yeah,
or order
yeah,
online. And then that opens us to.
absolutely. And if it is just more information on the Steam OS, I won't be disappointed because at least with this whole Steam OS, coming out, it's letting you know that the Steam box is still coming. To me,
Yeah.
that's what I'm seeing.
Right. I think if we don't see a hardware announcement this week, that we won't ever. I think they might be geared more towards an open platform and developing that OS and allowing people to have their own quote unquote Steam box. But
So
I don't
let's say-
expect that.
Yeah. Let's say it is a Steam box.
Mhm.
Then what's the complete conjecture now at this point, looking to Friday? What is 0 plus 0?
That's a good question.
I saw an interesting theory. There's, all kinds of theories everywhere, but one that I thought would be pretty cool was split screenplay. Multiple Steam accounts logging on and one Steam OS PC.
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
That'd be kind of neat.
2 separate streams from 2 separate PCs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that would be its own announcement, but that would be cool.
Yeah.
The fact that the O means Steam OS, and then we have the O inside of the little brackets. I think that's a box, so that would make sense that that's Steam box.
Right.
But the O plus O, I'm just
Yeah, I
not
said
sure.
0 before. Yeah.
Part of me thinks that Gabe's always talked about how the community is very reciprocal as far as content creation goes. And I think it might be some sort of an announcement of a new marketplace where users can create content and sell them, and that the trading cards has been more of like a heavy test of that marketplace to get lots of users to use it so that they can kind of beta test this marketplace before it becomes a content system. So say I wanted to make a new level for Left 4 Dead, I could make that and then sell it on the marketplace. Or I wanted to make a new shell for the Steam OS that works solely with an Xbox controller or a PlayStation controller, I could sell that on the Steam marketplace. I think that that's kind of the direction they're headed. You'll probably be able to buy software packages. Some guy could make a video editor in Linux and sell it on the Steam marketplace.
Right.
And you'll have your official Steam store, and then you'll have a community store where, like an eBay or Steam, will say, "Hey, we don't support any of this crap. You download it and use it on your own risk, and this person's responsible for supporting it."
Yeah.
I think that might be what it is.
Or a Steam controller. I've seen a lot of conjecture about a controller.
Yeah, and I think that'll come with the hardware. To be honest,
Yeah.
I think that'll come with the Steam box on Wednesday. Personally, the other thing I really expected to see was announcement of Left 4 Dead 3 with 3 announcements, but I don't see how that symbol could make any sense for Left.
Yeah, I don't see how the symbols make sense. Or obviously the Geek Boy dream of Half-Life 3.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen.
Right.
But it's a possibility. The reason I say Left 4 Dead 3 is because Left 4 Dead 2 was the first game that they ported over to Linux when they started this whole endeavor, and they spent a bunch of time tweaking it and porting it and getting updates and making it run actually more efficiently than on Windows, and actually runs a little faster on the same hardware on Linux than in Windows. But it would make sense after doing all that tweaking and all that configuration that they just make some new content at that point and make a new game. It'd be a lot easier to do than Half-Life would be, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure that'll happen. Given what we know now, I'm not entirely convinced that that'll happen.
And
But
just trying to figure out the symbols themselves. I just don't see O plus O in terms of trying to make that work.
Maybe we're just looking too far into that. I don't know. I do think that if they announce hardware and they don't have a new game to show running on it, that's not a very good decision. I think you want to have like a new game running on the new hardware. I mean, who wants to see 3-4-year-old games running on a new piece of hardware? That's not that exciting. So
there was one other piece of conjecture that I what was it? I had to remember it just for you. And it was that maybe the third announcement is going to be some kind of integration between Steam, for desktop, living room, and Steam for iOS. So you'd be able to stream your games from Steam to your iPad or iPhone.
I highly doubt that.
No, I don't
But
see that happening.
the thing
at all.
is, Steam's already had problems with iOS because there's the Steam mobile app for Android and iOS. Steam's already had lots of problems with Apple because Apple's rules are that you can't have microtransactions that don't go through their marketplace.
Right.
So if you want to buy a game, you have to buy iTunes money or credits or whatever and buy it through your iTunes store. Well, Steam wants to sell it directly through the app, So they've already had issues with that. I don't think, Steam supports Apple because their fans use Apple, and that's respectable. But I don't think that they're on the any sort of better terms than they are with Microsoft by any means.
Yeah.
And with all this said, it's interesting.
I laughed when I saw that, but I had to bring it up just for you.
Yeah, that's a bunch of malarkey. But with all that said, Gabe used to work at Microsoft until Valve was founded. Interestingly enough, so he probably knows a lot more than you or I or any of us three about Microsoft. So I would say when they develop an entire operating system to steer clear of Microsoft, it's probably for good reason.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, that's really all I wanted to say. But we had lots of questions, and I thought it would be best rather than typing it out to a bunch of people, just to get on here and record a quick show.
Well done. It was a lot of questions answered for myself, and Mike already expressed that he had a lot of his own questions answered himself. So I think that helps a lot.
Okay. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing, and hopefully I didn't rant and bore anybody. Said if anybody doesn't care, they don't have to listen. So probably should have said that at the beginning. But anyway.
Fair enough. Well, I suppose we will call that a show, and we'll be back probably on Wednesday night to see what the next round of announcements has. And as always, the regularly scheduled episode, coming this weekend.
Yep. So anyway, before we go, I have one more question for you guys.
What could that possibly be?
Is anyone else lagging?
Oh.
Is anyone else lagging?